Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cooltific podcast. I am your host, Gabriel. This is episode 6 of season 1, entitled Geography and Technology. So, let's begin with general topics. So, how you guys doing today? Number one, I just woke up about 30 minutes ago. Uh, I would say that, I was having a lot of weird dreams last night. Some of them were a little just, I don't know, bizarre. Uh, my dreams tend to be a little bit they tend to relate to my waking life to some degree, but a lot of the times it's like this weird mix between these weird abstract images that come from my subconscious and that kind of mix with uh, what the events or a lot of times it's kind of the worries too that kind of befall me throughout the days and weeks. Uh, but I woke up today and I made some coffee, and I'll tell you what, coffee makes me a little sick, and I don't know, I don't really enjoy drinking a beverage that makes me sick just to wake up. Like, uh, I would say that I prefer to drink energy drinks, but the thing is that every time I drink an energy drink, it just saps my body after a while, and I'm not too sure if coffee doesn't do that. If coffee probably also does that too, but the thing is that if I drink a little bit of water after I have some coffee, I tend to feel a little bit better. So, uh, but yeah, how you guys doing today? I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're commuting to work, or just listening to this casually, or maybe you just encountered this podcast for some reason, and just listening in. So yeah, um, but like I said, my day's going okay so far. I definitely, uh, you know, I definitely, I'm enjoying the morning so far. I feel fairly good. I don't feel I don't have any sense of dread right now. The office is clear, so I can do this recording without too many worries. So that's pretty nice. So yeah. So now, when it comes to some updates on the podcast, I most likely am going to invite at least one of the two people that I offered to come on the show. Um, One of them is probably going to come onto the show, and it's going to be a each get an episode that features a guest is going to be 50 minutes long. While for the first two seasons, the episodes are going to be 25 minutes long. But anything featuring guests is 50 minutes long, just to double the time to allow the guests to really flesh out their thoughts and just kind of make their presence known on the podcast. So yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. I might expand my podcast to Spotify, like I said, but I have to set up an RSS feed, and I have to kind of import all the audio uh, I guess on the computer, import all the audio and to the website and get that set up. But for now, I think I'm doing quite well on YouTube. Uh, I think I'll probably just stay on YouTube for a little bit and just stick to that medium for a while. Um, As you can see, for the past few episodes, the graphics been improved. I got a little spiral galaxy going. Uh, it's not fully HD, unfortunately, but the thing is that I mean, what can you do? You know, uh, you, uh, I can maybe find another GIF, but I really like this GIF or this little video that I use for the spiral galaxy, and so I think I'm going to stick to it. Um, so, uh, my question is, just to kind of go to another topic, what do you guys like to do in your free time? For me, typically what I do in my free time, and I usually have a lot of free time lately, but what I typically do in my free time is, just research things on the internet or just entertain myself with the internet. I'm very internet centric, honestly. Sometimes I'll just go on the internet and go on YouTube and just space out for a while, like just watch stupid shit on YouTube. Usually it's under a minute long, and get some amusement out of that. That's pretty fun, I would say. But I would say that, like, it's good to implement some more healthy things into your free time. Probably like sports or just something that kind of involves exercise, or something that involves like acquiring new information, like educating yourself. That's something that I have done in the past, but the thing is that, like, lately I haven't really been focusing on anything educational. Uh, I would say that it's important to it's important to focus on acquiring new information and just learning in general. Like being a lifelong learner. I think that's something that's important for everyone. To kind of apply that mindset, because it will aid them in the future, and it will, of course, it will it will expand their minds and expand their perspective on things. So that's usually a pretty good thing, you would think. So yeah. um, Another thing that I've been thinking about lately is, now I mentioned in a previous podcast that I wanted to travel to the East Coast, and of course we'll get into geography in a minute. But uh, the thing is that I've wanted to travel to various places. Like, I've wanted to travel to Japan and Germany and Italy. And the thing is that, like, I haven't really, like, I gotta go get a passport and potentially visa, and then I gotta have enough money to go get a hotel in, say, Munich or something. And it's probably not as difficult as a process as you kind of get the impression of in the beginning. But the thing is that, like, you know I definitely need to save a little bit of money up uh, for traveling. So yeah, I mean, like, it's just important that you allocate probably, like, what, 10% of your earnings to savings. I mean, that's something I should do. Um, and over time I'll accrue enough to go on a big travel. And what do you guys usually do when you're traveling? Or, like, how do you guys usually organize your money when you're traveling? Or do you guys usually save up for a long time? Or do you kind of just happen to have enough money and then kind of just blow it on a trip? I mean, who knows? uh, so uh, and then, kind of a final note for the general topics is, I'm excited about a new game coming out in October, Metroid Dread. Uh, I don't know. I don't really know if it's going to be like if it's going to be the exact same as Metroid Fusion. I mean, it's not going to be the exact same, obviously, but, like, it's supposed to follow the events following Metroid Fusion, which is the fourth Metroid game. And I don't know. I wonder if it's going to be uh, similar to the game. Maybe it's going to have, like, the robot, talking to you through the interface or something like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's going to have, like, quite a strong Switch, quote unquote, aesthetic. And so I don't know. It's probably going to be, like, fairly different. Um, I was a little disappointed with Metroid Samus Returns, because it just didn't seem to have the same spirit as, like, the traditional 2D Metroid games. But I don't know, maybe that's, like, missing the point. I don't know. I mean, it's good to be open-minded to to different aesthetics and stuff like that. Because if you're not, then, like, you're just gonna cling to the old things and never really, like, adapt and move forward. I guess that applies to a lot of things, right? But it's just like, I hope Metroid Dread's going to be a good game. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna purchase it. Uh, I don't know, probably upon release. It's actually pretty close to my birthday, so yeah, that's gonna be pretty exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys, look forward to whatever games are coming out that you enjoy. So let's move on to geography. So one thing that I really like about geography is that you know, there's different ways to study Earth, Like there's physical geography and political geography, and you can study the oceans and the continents and like the different or national or intergovernmental organizations on the planet. And I would say that given that there's so many different ways you can analyze geography, it's quite interesting. Like one of my favorite continents is Europe. I like Europe because it's an ancient place. Like basically it's like the cradle of Western civilization exists there. With Greece and Rome, and like uh, basically like all this history has occurred in Europe for like thousands and thousands of years, and it's just interesting to see the development over time with the Greeks being taken over by the Romans, and then the Romans forming their empire, then the Western Empire falling, and then the Byzantine Empire surviving for a long time until they fell to the Ottomans, of course. Seeing the growth of the British Empire, or the events that happened during World War I with Austria-Hungary and Serbia and stuff like that. Or just I like looking at all the different architecture, throughout Europe. Especially you compare say the UK, really England in particular, to Spain or Germany or Norway or even Russia. It's interesting to see how all these different countries and cultures just have a different they just have a different layout with their buildings. And some parts of Europe have Gothic architecture, or the Soviet apartments that you see throughout the former Eastern Bloc. That's just it's interesting to see those kind of things. um, I would say that another thing that is interesting about Europe in particular is that it just became so powerful, because of empire, and because of Britain industrializing first. It just led to this massive growth. And you see this massive growth with industry in the UK, and how the UK expanded to all continents on the planet pretty much. And the UK occupying the colonies, and how the colonies became independent. But at the same time, the UK kind of kept Canada and Australia, even had India for a while. That kind of stuff is pretty interesting to me. uh or how there's actually, I think Scotland had a colony. Before England and Scotland unified, I think Scotland had a colony, but I don't know where. I think it was in Central America, but I might be wrong. Uh, but it's interesting that Scotland kind of had a foray into colonization. That's something that you wouldn't expect. You know, uh, I wonder if Wales did. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what is it called? New Patagonia? There's a place in Brazil that has a lot of Welsh people, or people of Welsh descendants. And I don't know. It's just interesting to see how how even the more obscure parts of the world can have an influence on other parts of the world. Like Germany with Namibia, for example. That's just north of South Africa. And it's interesting to see that there's German influence in Namibia. It's kind of it's a little odd, I guess you could say. Or how Macau in China has Portuguese influence, because Portugal owned that little portion of China for a while. It's odd. And that kind of leads into Asia. Asia is a very interesting place because you have the Silk Road going from you know I believe it went from China through Central Asia into Europe. And it kind of makes you wonder how people on the Silk Road, like how did they you know how did they trade? Like, I mean, you kind of have this archetypal image of like a person like wandering across the desert, like with horses or camels or something, trying to trade with these various nations. And but I actually read something that a lot of the people on the Silk Road actually like only had like a small interval of distance that they traded between. I mean, and so they kind of just went back and forth between these 2 points on the Silk Road and traded. It's not that necessarily a lot of them would journey all the way across the Silk Road, but there was kind of like stations on the Silk Road where people, were tribes or, whatever, like government organizations would trade with, somebody maybe if, 10 or 15 miles away or something, who knows? Like that kind of stuff is just interesting. Uh, but another interesting thing about Asia is like, you know, I would say that, it's really interesting how like Japan was isolated for so long, but they were still fairly prosperous. Like, I mean, Japan didn't really industrialize until like the late 19th century, but the thing is that like it's just interesting to see how Japan, you know, was isolated for so long, like closed off from all trade with the West and even probably with China and stuff like that. And yet, like they were, fairly prosperous as a nation. They developed their own culture with like Shintoism and Buddhism, and they just, you know, got along for a while. Uh, you know, Samurais are pretty cool, I would say. That's kind of a product of Japan that's pretty trippy. Warriors that go around and, I don't know if samurais are necessarily bounty hunters, but at least some of them probably did that kind of work. But I know they would. I think samurais would work for the shogunate, and the shogun was like, the head of the military or like the samurai clan or something like that. But I don't know. Um, But yeah, so like Asia is a pretty interesting place too. Maybe in a future episode we could talk about other continents. But for now, I just kind of wanted to blabber on about you know uh, you know two parts of the Earth that were kind of interest to me. I really like Europe. I think Europe is a really interesting part of the world. I definitely want to visit someday. Uh, my question is like, what parts of the world do you guys want to visit? I'm sure there's a lot of places that people want to visit, but it's always fun to like go experience something different. So, all right, let's move on to technology. So, technology is an interesting thing because like, you typically like like with phones and computers and with like machines like cars and like even those little factory machines that kind of like assemble different things together. I don't know what they're called, but I'm sure there's a name for them. But the thing that's interesting is that like you know how technology has progressed throughout time. Like in the ancient era, like the classical era, like going back to maybe like 300 BC to 380 or something. The thing is that like people back then, like they still had they still had things like irrigation systems and writing and stuff, but it's interesting to think about how people technology wise, like they didn't even have like lights. They didn't even have like electric lighting and stuff like that. Like they had to use candles and or lamps and just fire in general, right? And it's interesting to think about how people were so dependent on like such simple means to increase their quality of life, or even like light a path at night. uh it's interesting how technology exploded in like the 1800s to the 1900s. Like we went from like horse and buggy to planes and cars in such a short amount of time. And like it kind of makes you beg the question, like how does that work? How does, you know, uh, how is there like kind of steady progress with technology for so long, and then there's just this explosion, you know? Is that kind of a is that like a law of civilizations developing? Like if you go to an alien planet with like creatures of similar intelligence to humans, will there be like an explosion of technology eventually throughout their history? Like, will that happen? That's like an interesting question. But the thing is that like, at least with humans, we had this explosion, and I don't know. It's just odd. It's odd, isn't it? It's just odd to see how like, uh, you know, uh, basically, yeah, and it's not even just like with technology, but like with our thinking about things. It's like things become a little bit more loose and free with like human rights and just freedom in general when there's more technology. At least you would think so, unless you got like a technocracy or something, like a dictatorship using technology to oppress people. And of course that can be done as that can be structured as well, which is quite unfortunate. But the thing is that like it seems generally that with more technology, there tends to be uh, there tends to be like more freedom, and there tends to be like more freedom of thought in general. And especially with something like the internet, it kind of allows for just free thought to course all throughout the internet system. And it like allows uh like almost like revolutionary you know eras to occur, because like you know like with the printing press, for example, kind of going far back, you had like you know, information was kind of scarce, and like just reading was scarce, because books weren't, as common, especially in the hands of like, quote unquote commoner or a peasant or whatever who couldn't read. But then the printing press came out, and so like people who were at least able to read were able to obtain those books, and that led to like huge paradigm shifts, throughout, say, a nation, or or a specific culture or society. Kind of like with the Protestant Reformation, because like I think the printing press occurred around the same time, right? Around the same time when the Protestant Reformation happened. But anyways, because education was more available and people were reading more, the Protestant Reformation happened. Some people decided that the Catholic Church wasn't true, and so there was this huge rebellion in Europe, and unfortunately that led to a bunch of wars. But the thing is that like, like it's just fascinating to see how technology can influence, the social, you know, the social atmosphere of, a whole nation or continent, uh, we kind of see with like technology moving forward, we have like, AI slowly becoming more developed, and we have like, self-driving cars and stuff like that. And the thing is like, it's just, the question is like, where's technology heading to? Like, are we going to get to the point where we can like simulate like, whatever reality we want? Basically, like with computers and stuff, like we can, plug our brains into something, into a computer and just experience whatever we want, like simulation wise. That most likely is going to happen in the next few decades. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see that happening. But also, like, what are kind of the negative aspects to technology? Like how it impacts people, in more negative ways. That's something we kind of have to watch out for, because like As time progresses, we kind of become more integrated as as a humanity. And the thing is that like if we don't watch kind of our technological hygiene, then we're going to have some problems. So, anyways, this has been Cooltific podcast. Thanks for watching / listening. Bye.